December, OUTshine Film Festival's Fort Lauderdale Virtual Edition, featuring queer films from all over the world. Presenting 18 feature films and 3 shorts programs, plus a drive-in movie night at Pier 66. Watch the best LGBTQ+ films from home. Tickets are on sale now. Check out the program at OUTshineFilm.com.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 12th annual Fort Lauderdale virtual edition of the OUTshine LGBTQ+ Film Festival. I'm Victor Gimenez, your executive director. We're presented by Gilead and Broward County. On behalf of the board, the staff, and the volunteers, welcome to our virtual Q&A for the Obituary of Tunde Johnson. We're actually very happy to have with us tonight the director, Ali LeRoy. Welcome, Ali.
Hey, how are you?
Well, we're doing well. We're doing well. Well, I'm pretty sure our audience enjoyed the film as much as I did. The Obituary of Tunde Johnson. It was really, I think, a very timely film and a very impactful film. And then actually, and a quick little side note: in my research of you before doing the Q&A, I had a weird, I guess, what's the word, serendipity moment. Like when I was watching the film, there was a scene with Tunde and his parents at breakfast, and they were going over how he should act, if he gets pulled over by the police. And when that scene was going on, I was like, oh my God, this reminds me of like an interview that Chris Rock did with Howard Stern, where it's like the talk that Black parents do to their kids. And then when I looked up your credits, I see you actually have a whole mess of credits working with Chris Rock. And in general, you have a lot of actually comedic credits in terms of it's with comedy. So my first question is like, how did you actually get involved with this film? How did you discover the film? How did you get involved with the film? And what drew you to it?
Well, the writer of the film, Stanley Colley, who has become a very, very close friend of mine. He's a USC college student, and the producer, Zach Green and Jason Schumann, had started a screenplay competition called Launch $1 Million Screenplay Competition. And basically the prize was, college students submit these screenplays, and the bottom line is the winner would get their film made for $1 million in addition to some other prizes. And I had known Jason from some of my previous work in television, and he called me in and asked me what I consider being one of the judges, and I agreed, and I met Zach, and and they sifted through tons of scripts, looking through material, and ultimately when they whittled it down to who they thought the potential finalists were, as one of the judges, I was a huge advocate for Stanley's work. I just thought it was original and timely and special in a lot of ways. And after a lot of adjudication, we ultimately decided that Stanley would be the prize winner. After that, I walked away, thinking it was done, and maybe like a month or so later, Zach and Jason called me, and because I had been so passionate about Stanley's script, they asked me what I considered directing it, and that was an absolute yes from me. So that's kind of what led me into that particular project.
One of the things I liked in the script is the way the way the parents were portrayed. Like the parents that you meet in the film, though they're not perfect, they're loving and supportive. Was that always in the script, or was that something that maybe you brought into it?
No, tonally, everything that you're seeing on the screen is really an outgrowth of things that Stanley wrote, and what I tried my best to do was really render the characters and the circumstance, in a way that I hoped and felt would resonate with an audience, and also do justice to the material, because he actually did, he made quite a giant creative leap by know, it's the story, time loop, which is something that was, that's kind of like a genre specific thing. And to have the type of material that we were dealing with, set atop, that type of device was, like a very, very delicate balance. But in terms of the way that the parents are rendered and really all the rest of the characters, that was already in the fabric of the script. So really what we attempted to do, and I think what I was able to do with him. Stanley was young when he wrote this, only 19 years old, and as it turns out, I'm a parent. So I think that I was able to, maybe give the parents some nuance in terms of the way, they express their concerns around, what was happening, with their child, and oddly enough, I don't even know if it's a coincidence. I actually have had a few occasions where very, very close friends of mine, I've had conversations with them about coming out. So it's actually an experience that I've had. So just in terms of the nuance and the delicate nature of having that type of conversation, it's a conversation that I've had before. So I think I was able to infuse those characters, you know, with some tonality that felt authentic, I think, and and spoke in a genuine way to what that experience might be like.
Excellent. We actually got a comment from the audience. A very good movie. So I want to share that with everybody. Going to the actors and the casting.
Thank you.
Going to the actors and the casting. It was really good. Especially for me, Steven Stiller as Tunde and Sami Rotby as his father. Can you go into more detail about the casting process? Were there certain actors you already had in mind, or was that all like basically it was all the actors were cast from scratch?
No, and for the character of Tunde, that was just that was straight casting. We had a lot of people come in, and during the casting process, there were a small group of actors who really handled the material well, and so ultimately we ended up doing something that kind of felt like chemistry tests, in a room, which two actors look great together, which two actors seem to have some kind of electricity and or spontaneity between them. And when Stephen came in, he just entered the space immediately, and he just had a presence and an approach to the material that just didn't feel it felt informed is the best way that I can state it. And when Spencer came in, oddly enough, in the film, he's got this blonde hair and everything, but when he came into audition, Spencer had dark brown hair, and he really looked like, he really did look like a teen jock. And at first I had a little trouble, accepting that he might be this character of Soren. But when he and Steven worked together, in the auditions, they just really had incredible chemistry. There was just a lot of energy coming from them. And that's not always, like this big thing that's, like blowing you away, but sometimes it's just little nuances and subtleties in the acting that draw you in. And both Spencer and Steven, and especially the two of them working together, really created like a chemistry that I just felt like was really, really strong. And then when we got to shooting, that's when Spencer asked, could he dye his hair blonde? Uh, and we did a test on his hair to see what it would look like. And the kid is devastatingly handsome. So I was actually glad. Maybe he knew that he was devastatingly handsome with blonde hair, but he really did do like this amazing job of embodying this sort of like prototypical, privileged jock kid, straddling two identities. He was just really fantastic, and like I said, I can't speak enough for Steven, and even going on to Nicola, who initially auditioned over like a streaming audition. When Nicola auditioned, she sent us video. She was in New York, and her face just lit the screen up. Like when Nicola comes on, like I can't stop looking at her, and it's just like amazing look and embodiment, I think, of a character that in a lot of ways is, kind of tragic in her own way, and sort of sad. And she really understood who that girl was. So, I mean, these actors just really brought a lot of strength, and, and a lot of authenticity to the characters, and really, I think, helped to inform me in a lot of ways. I'm an older guy, so they're moving through this space. They've had these relationships, so we really moved through this film with a lot of trust, a lot of communication, a lot of openness, from myself to Stanley to me. Between us and the actors, and I really think we functioned as a team on this. For what it's worth, I think that process but it really was the sum total of everybody's efforts and input and insights and patience and dedication. So it's a team effort if there was one.
And there's actually a great lead in, because you had a great team with obviously the writer and the actors, but you also just had, I think, a great creative team on the film itself. Your film just looked great. You didn't, you did a great job with, the art direction, the set design. I mean, and you also did a good job of just showing and not telling. Like the first time you meet Tunde, from the way, just, a few shots of the room, that, he's from an affluent family. He's kind of an old soul. He's got the vinyl records, the books that he has out there.
Right.
Yeah, and it continues throughout the film. The way the prep school is and all this other stuff. Can you go into a little bit more detail about, like, basically the art direction and the way you created what the characters are, just in basically in where they lived and where they went to school. Like it was really, I was really impressed by the art direction, just the look of the film.
Well, so we shot in and around, Los Angeles, and what we were trying to create was sort of this timeless space, right? It's contemporary, but outside of that, we don't really lean too much into like heavy pop culture, cues or anything along those lines. I imagine if you see this film in another, 4 or 5 years, and hopefully even 10, it will still feel present in a real way. So we tried to kind of push, in terms of locations and wardrobes and the looks of the characters. We tried to create their own little, intimate universe. In terms of what we will ultimately end up putting on the screen. My DP, Stephen Holleran, I call him Doc Holleran, did an amazing job with kind of intuiting what I wanted to see on the screen, because we have a lot of things happening. We have this time loop element occurring. There are all of these little like little visual cues that the especially Stephen as Tunde was delivering in his performance. So I didn't want the camera work and the shots to be too busy, because you actually need to be able to take in a lot of information that's appearing on the screen at any given time. And I really felt that the characters had enough charisma, and I thought the material itself and the storytelling was strong enough that we didn't need the additional jazz of like a lot of crazy camera movements. Stephen Holland did great work in terms of rendering some of the ideas that I had. I'm a photographer as well, so in terms of composing a frame and trying to communicate a certain type of information and feel based on the nature of the image alone is something that I do quite a bit. So, I just like the idea that when you're sitting and watching a frame, that it doesn't have to be, this super active frame in order for there to be a lot of activity and a lot of information in it. And I think sometimes that actually works. In this particular case, at least, I think that gives the opportunity, the viewer, an opportunity to, to really get into the frame, see all the little nuances. What are the facial tics? What happens different in the dialogue? What are these little subtle emotions that are coming out? And yeah, it's a visual medium at the end of the day. And I even had to work with Stanley a lot because Stanley is an incredibly intellectual kid. I'm calling him a kid, but he's 23 now. But he's super smart. And in the way that he writes, one of the challenges for him was trusting that he didn't have to say as much in order to get his point across. So I think I maybe helped him with that a bit, just shaving back some of the dialogue and allowing the faces to tell the story, allowing the actions to tell the story alongside the words. I feel the job, and so far the audience seems to agree. So, very, very happy about that.
No, excellent. Out of curiosity, was it a purposeful decision that the only like benign interaction between the police and Tunde was really the black female officer? And if so, why? Like when they were on the beach?
Well, right. So one of the things that I was attempting to kind of get across in Tunde's interactions with the police was the futility of attempting to behave your way out of a given circumstance. And that wasn't that the one officer that was black was the one that he happened to not have a violent had meet a violent end with. But you can counter that as well, because in the mini mart, when Soren's dad is trying to get to Tunde, it's a black officer that's holding him away from the scene. So I really was very conscientious around the idea of not trying to create this, two-dimensional static representation of police and what they do and why they do it. This was less an indictment of police actions themselves, more so than the fact that as a person who is encountering police in the circumstance, it almost doesn't matter who you encounter or what circumstances you encounter them under. If certain factors are at play, you could lose your life. And we don't even go so far as to suggest that in any given instance that even that the officers are right or wrong for what they did. We just see that it happens, which I think is what's more important, because that's why a lot of confusion, I think, abounds around what's to be done about sort of interactions in these tragic ends. But in this particular case, this was not an indictment of the police, but it was a statement around the idea that here's a thing that continues to happen. And, there may be some, there of course needs to be, some conversation and dissection, around why it continues to happen. But that's not what this film was about. This film was about this kid trying to figure out how to get how to move through a manifestation of that was these tragic ends he keeps having with these officers. So, like I said, I mean, it was the point was not to say that if he met a black officer he'd be okay. That's not the truth. So yeah, she just just to be clear, in Stanley's original version of the script, that character was in a diner or something like that, but we had to change the location, and logistics required that we changed the way we handled that. And that particular actress was somebody that was great for the part and brought a great attitude to it. So it was a light moment with an officer, and I also still feel like that the fact that she is an officer and that she's black, when you're on the force, the first thing that matters is force first, who you are second. I think so. I think in that instance, that's my reading on it.
Okay. Out of curiosity, it's kind of like a not necessarily the same answer, might be, but like, what was your favorite scene in the movie, and what was your favorite film to direct? I mean, not film, but your favorite scene to direct, and then what was your favorite scene actually in the movie? They may not be the same.
Uh, wow. My favorite scene. Um, my favorite scene, I think, was the scene where Tunde and Soren actually are at the beach, um, because it was this one moment in the film where they actually got to. It felt like they got to be alive for a minute and just be out in the world, and for a second everything just slowed down, and what I felt like it was just a nice way to be able to portray and show a genuine affection between these two characters. And also I just thought visually that particular scene was just really music in it. The song that's in that scene is originally by Nina Simone. He Needs Me, but we redid it in the film with Layla Hathaway, who was I don't know, 5 or 6 time Grammy Award winning, genius songstress. So we redid that with Layla. So I just really loved that particular scene. I just thought it was beautiful and rich and romantic, and I just really, really liked directing that scene. Um, I mean, after that, I mean, it's hard to say. I think that's the best I can. I think that's the best I can give you. Under the circumstances. I mean, all the rest of the work was challenging and I think rich, and we did a lot of great and fun things. I'll tell you one more scene that I actually thought was particularly challenging, uh, and I give a lot of credit to the actors. The very last Soren, when they're on the patio at the party before they go in and come out to to Soren's dad. That was an incredibly challenging scene to direct, uh, because we had all the dialogue scripted, and on the day we tossed it out. Uh, and it was like a high degree of trust. I had cameras set up on tripods and all these kind of things, and we did a couple of takes of this scene, and I just knew that it wasn't working. So Holleran got his camera and he went handheld with it. Um, and I just told Spencer and Steven Silver, it's like, listen, you know who these characters are. You know what this scene is about. Steven, you want this kid to come inside with you and come out to his dad, and Spencer and Soren, you don't want to do it. Go. And I mean, literally, the energy they brought to it, the improvisation, the insight, the fire behind it. I would love to be able to take more credit for it, but the best I can say is that I gave them some guardrails and then really let them just have at it. And Holleran, he just covered it in a way that was fantastic, and we cut it together, and really think we came up with a scene that was just incredibly emotional and impactful, and that's another one of the ones I really love.
Yeah, no, and then and that was both of those were great scenes. Me personally, I like the scene when they were both at the beach, but in the car, and then the two officers come, and each character had a different reaction. Like Tunde's reaction was one way, Soren's reaction was an entirely different way. Yeah, and then, but going to like what you're saying, like the emotional impact of the film. At least this is me just giving you a comment. It's not. There's not even a question in here. It's more like, because of the repeating nature of the story and then the different scenarios. Within me, it kept creating this internal tension. I'm like, oh my god, like how's it going to happen now? And I felt that. So of course, like at the end, when Tunde's on the beach at night by himself, and you hear the police cars and the sirens in the background, and then of course I'm tensing up, but then they get loud, but then they start fading away. I felt, quite frankly, such a relief. Like the narration stopped, but then the sirens started to fade away, and then the narration continues. I'm like, Like, so I just want to compliment, Stanley with the script, the actors, you with the direction. That you got a definite emotional response from
Thank you.
me. I'm sure many people probably had a very similar response. Out of curiosity, this has been obviously a very weird year for films, and the Obituary of Tunde Johnson has had a great festival run. What's actually next for the film? What are you hoping where the film goes from here? Like, what's next for the film?
Well, it's almost like I have to hold my tongue because we are in very serious and very progressed conversations with a distribution company about bringing in early next year, probably first quarter. So we're in the process of building materials and looking at release dates and some of that. So we should be seeing this, certainly on the digital platform, streaming, what have you, first quarter. And I don't know what society will allow. If there's a possibility for an actual theatrical release, I'd be thrilled with that. I'd be incredibly excited for that to happen. We have we're up against a pandemic, so who knows? Warner Brothers just said their entire slate of movies is going online. So, I don't know if we want to be the ones that want to lead the charge in the theaters when Tenet couldn't do it.
Right.
So,
Earlier.
I mean, yeah. But streaming is streaming has proven itself to be viable, and if people are going to get excited about something, it's easy and get someplace. That's not really my concern at this point. I really do feel like in an odd way, I think that the time from our initial festival premiere on the circuit, at TIFF and the rest, the time between then and now, it feels like the film has become even more pointed, more relevant. So, in an odd way, I'm actually kind of happy for the delay. So I'm looking forward to it coming out now. I'm ready for, everybody to be able to see it.
Excellent. This is a curiosity question on my part, and it's actually almost nothing to do with what we just talked about. But the character, Tunde's father, out of curiosity, what did he do for a living? Was he an artist? Did he own an art gallery? Was he a successful businessman that now dabbles in art? Like, I'm just kind of curious. What did Tunde's father do?
He's a conceptual artist.
Yeah.
Yes, the dad is actually a conceptual artist. So yeah, that's how he makes his money.
Okay, I was just kind of curious. Like, what does he do? I'm kind of curious. What's actually, Ali? What's next for you? Now that
yeah. I mean, the real answer is who knows. But ideally, I'm in some advanced conversations and working on some material that could be the next film that I direct. So fingers crossed on that and moving that. I have a couple of television projects that are also in advanced stages. So we're trying to see if we can get those on the ground and shooting in 2021, and then just the regular development slate stuff, always coming up with an idea. I have a spec script sitting in my house that I haven't told anyone about. That's actually the thing that I want to do more than anything else, but I probably have to do something else first in order to get to it. So, I expect some good stuff though in 2021 and beyond. And fingers crossed, I'd love to get my next feature off the ground, ASAP. So we'll see, but I'm excited about everything.
All right, perfect. Well, thank you, Ali. I think we had a great Q&A. I think definitely the audience enjoyed it, and they'll enjoy it, as we keep it on our YouTube channel. And I want to thank you on behalf of everyone for, making this great film, allowing us to show at the festival, and being part of this virtual Q&A. We definitely very much appreciate it. And then thank you for your time.
Well, I'm glad that you all wanted to see the movie, and tell everybody that will even hear you that it's worth seeing, and I'll be out there doing the same. Thank you so much for having me, and and stay safe out there, man. Crazy year, crazy times, and better days ahead.
Most definitely. Thank you, and thank you, everybody.
You got it. Take